And at number 10, we have Nikkie De Jager. Nikkie De Jager, aka Nikkie Tutorials, famously appeared on The Ellen Show after her coming out video went viral on YouTube. But although she said it was an honor to be on The Ellen Show, Nikkie admitted later in a Dutch television interview the experience wasn't what she thought it would be. Sebastian Williams found that clip and translated it, and our girl Nikkie spilled some serious tea and really did not hold back. She called Ellen distant and cold, saying Ellen didn't even come and say hi before the show. Nikkie even said in another interview that Ellen did not let her use the bathroom. Apparently the Jonas Brothers were on the show the same day and Ellen didn't have enough for everyone. And after exposing Ellen like that, obviously she will not be asked on the show again. And at number 9, Brad Garrett. The Everybody Loves Raymond star called out Ellen in a tweet in the midst of her scandal. He wrote on Twitter that her behavior was not a shock to him, or anyone else in the industry for that matter. He replied to a tweet about the Ellen scandal and added, quote, "Sorry, but it comes from the top at the Ellen Show. No more than one who were treated horribly by her. Common knowledge. DeGeneres sends emotional apology to staff Variety." Garrett had appeared on the show multiple times before he made his statements, so we know whatever you heard was definitely true. However, since he was one of the few celebrities that publicly called out Ellen, I would assume that he will not be asked back, but considering his statements, it seems like he probably didn't want to be anyway. And at number 8, Caitlyn Jenner. If you watched the last interview Ellen did with Caitlyn shortly after her transition, you definitely know why Ellen will not be having her back on the show. And apparently Ellen actually told Caitlyn that she was blacklisted. In her memoir, The Secrets of My Life, Caitlyn took the time to call out Ellen specifically for, quote, alienating her from the LGBTQ community by not allowing Caitlyn to come on her show. But it seems Caitlyn alienated herself from the community after her 2015 Ellen interview. In that interview, Ellen asked about Caitlyn's stance on gay marriage. She replied, quote, "I have to admit that I remember 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whenever it was that whole gay marriage issue came up, I was not for it." But Caitlyn added later, quote, "If that word marriage is important to you, I can go with it." But Caitlyn still seemed apprehensive in her support of same-sex marriage and was pressed by Ellen on the issue.
Number 7, publicly body shamed. The tabloids have always been known for their mean-spirited gossip pieces, and to no surprise, they would constantly post unflattering photographs of the actor with demeaning comments about his appearance. While Brendan was enjoying a beach vacation to spend more time with his family, numerous websites were quick to gawk at the fact that the star gained weight. Over the past decade, people have become aware of the effects of body shaming can have, and they've noted that shaming someone for the way they look is humiliation to the exact form of bullying. Over the time, it has become increasingly unacceptable in the public eye, but at the time, Brendan didn't have the support to defend him from the abuse he faced from the tabloids till now. Brendan has also noticed, with all the negative backlash he was receiving from the celebrity gossip headlines, it made him depressed and he felt like he was unable to maintain an athletic physique because he was going through an extreme health issue, and these issues caused him to regularly check into a hospital. Number 6, 7 years in and out of the hospital. When Brendan Fraser rose to become an action hero in the 2008 film Mummy, it came at the expense of his physical health. When he recounts his time filming for the third Mummy movie, he said he had to adopt a daily routine of covering himself in ice packs. He also would specifically choose a thin, light pack of ice to conceal under his clothing. His no-problem approach to work through the paid dates all the way back to his first movie in 1991, Dogfight, where he bruised a rib during a stunt. The star at the time said, "That's okay, I'll take it. I can do it again. If you want, I'll break it." Brendan would keep this attitude with him for over a decade and a half, and it started to take a severe toll on his overall health. Brendan's body became so damaged that he would spend 7 years repeatedly visiting hospitals, and he would have numerous surgeries and procedures. The worst part that came with not listening to his body is that he needed multiple back surgeries, a partial knee replacement, and both of these procedures required extensive physical therapy and recovery time. In addition, he has to have an operation on his throat to repair his vocal cords. Living in America, the star would have to pay out of pockets to these procedures, and ultimately this led to the star to have some financial difficulties. If this situation has taught us anything, is that you need to listen to your body. If you feel hurt, say something, and if you feel like you need a break, take a break, because you never know what's going to happen. Number 5, left behind by the world. In 2016, Brendan's appearance in an interview would leave many viewers to feel concerned for his overall health. Many noted that they were worried for the star as he appeared depressed. And they were right, because he was. Speaking later in an interview, the star would go on to say he didn't realize how he was feeling at the time during the interview, as he was at the time grieving about the passing of his mother. The star would also go on to say that he's been trying to keep out of the spotlight for so long, and it was a shock to be back in the hot seat of it. It's been quite some time since he had made a formal press appearance, and the show he was promoting was one he was not particularly featured in. The star noted that the show felt new and unfamiliar to him and gave him a feeling he was feeling old. Since keeping out of the public eye, the world kept moving on without him. Even the Mummy franchise he was most famous for would no longer involve him, as Tom Cruise would go on to be casted in his role. Number 4, afraid to speak out during the Me Too movement. When Brendan finally had enough courage to speak out about being an SA victim in 2018, his interviews showed how hesitant he was to do so. With many survivors often having trouble coming forward for many reasons, it was totally understandable why the star was feeling the way he did. At the time, Brendan was struggling to contend with how the situation made him feel, and he didn't want it to become a defining part of his life any longer. For 15 years, the star decided to keep quiet until he was empowered to say something by the hashtag #MeToo movement. While this movement did start in 2010, Brendan said he had difficulty saying anything he wanted to say for so long, but he talked himself out of it. He was frightened, but felt like it was his duty to say something. And it wasn't until he saw others coming forward that he felt like he was ready to speak up about how he felt, and then he had a voice in the movement. He ended up following advice from Carrie Fisher, who once said, "Stay afraid, but do it anyways." This helped him speak out about what he was going through so others wouldn't have to endure the same pain.
And at number 3, Kim Burnell. Gospel singer Kim Burnell was set to appear on The Ellen Show with Pharrell to promote their collaboration. But Ellen banned her before that because she had made homophobic comments in the past. Ellen commented on the situation, saying, quote, "She made a statement she was doing a Facebook Live and she said some very not nice things about gay people. So I didn't feel that it was good of me to have her on the show to give her a platform after she was saying things about me." Pharrell commented that he disagreed with the statements Pharrell made, but said that we should all love each other regardless. Even adding that, quote, "Sometimes the divisive stuff works in life." And at number 2, Neil Breen. Neil Breen is an Australian radio host who has a popular radio show called 4BC Breakfast. And while the reports about Ellen were surfacing, he decided to speak about his experience with her. And spoiler alert, it was not good. He says he met Ellen in 2013 while he was a producer on the Australian Today Show, as his team was doing a sit-down interview with her. Breen exposed that he received a very detailed set of rules on how to guide the interview and how to act around her. He said that her team basically took over the whole interview and controlled practically every aspect of it. Allegedly, one of her producers even said, quote, "You don't talk to Ellen, you don't approach her, you don't look at her." He was never able to have an interaction with Ellen herself, but added, quote, "The people who worked with Ellen walked on eggshells the whole time." And in at number 1, Dakota Johnson. I doubt that Dakota will actually be blacklisted from Ellen's show because Dakota is a successful actress that will need to promote her movies on the show. However, considering Ellen's spat with Dakota on her show is really what started Ellen's downfall in the first place, she will probably avoid it as long as possible. The spat between them, of course, was about Dakota's birthday party. Basically, Ellen called Dakota out for not inviting her to the party, but Dakota clapped back that she actually did invite Ellen. She later awkwardly called Tig Notaro her favorite comedian, which was kind of a dig to Ellen. And there's also this gem of a quote from the interview where Dakota flat out says, quote, "I didn't even know you liked me," to Ellen. Honestly, I still cannot watch this interview without cringing.
Number 10, objectified early in his career. The less discussed topic in Hollywood is now becoming an increasing trend of the sexualization of men on and off screen. Brendan was heavily objectified early in his career, as a lot of his success was due to his scenes where he was made to go shirtless. In the movie George of the Jungle, Brendan spent most of his screen time only wearing a loincloth, which had the actor wondering how he was being portrayed. The actor said when he looked at himself, all he could see was a walking steak. He also admitted that his role ultimately earned his image as an action hero. However, the role demands had left the actor feeling exhausted, and that's why he turned down the reprisal of the role George of the Jungle 2. The role was so stressful he didn't want to put himself through it for a second time in a row. Even though the star turned down the role, the early objectification would ultimately stay with the star, and they would later come back to highlight the key stages that led to his difficulties with Hollywood later. Number 9. Ruined confidence. In an interview with GQ, Brendan explained, "The former president of Hollywood Foreign Press Association, Philip Burke, made unwanted sexual advances." Brendan explained it happened in the middle of a crowded room in a Beverly Hills hotel, and at the time he was left feeling overwhelmed and panicked with fear. However, the aftermath would be even worse. After receiving a non-apology from HFPA and Burke, the star fell into a depression and started to avoid the company of people. During the time, he also started to question what he was even doing. The overall incident called to the fact that men were also being harassed in the industry. For Brendan, it was just one of many things, which would almost destroy his acting career. When Brendan went to speak about his work, he says he felt like something was taken from him and that he found himself wondering why the HFPA would blacklist him after he was invited to the Global Globes after 2003. If one thing's for sure, they chose to blacklist him to sweep a scandal under the carpet, and that just wasn't right. Number 8. Acting choices reflected his self-worth. It seems that Brendan's personal life always seemed to influence his acting work, and in his early confidence on screen and off, in 2002 in an interview with Yahoo Entertainment, Brendan noted he was in the running to play Superman, and he was clearly really excited about dressing up as the hero. He stated that it made him feel like he was invincible. Sadly, later on in this movie, it would be cancelled, and the star took the cancellation to heart and noted he was left feeling like a giant failure. In 2003, when the star had an incident with Philip Burke, the star's sense of self-worth was completely destroyed. However, he ended up taking on a role in Looney Tunes Back in Action, always purely for the chance to portray the worst version of himself. After feeling humiliated, Brendan would then go on to retreat from the public view. While many people would turn to their families during this time of need, in 2009, he and his wife would divorce, and he would have no one to turn to, which derailed his career even further.
And at number 7, Leah Thompson. Leah Thompson, best known for her roles in the Back to the Future franchise, publicly agreed with Brad Garrett's sentiments on Ellen. On July 31st, after Garrett had made his statements against Ellen, People magazine wrote an article about it. Thompson then replied to a tweet about that article and simply added on, quote, "True story, it is." And this tweet is actually still up, and the replies are all agreeing that Ellen is definitely not what she seems, with many saying they always felt Ellen was two-faced. And at number 6, Sherri Shepherd. The former The View panelist is allegedly blacklisted from Ellen's show because of comments she made on The View that were against same-sex marriage. A source close to the situation said, quote, "When Sherri was on The View, she used to get booked on the Ellen show all the time. After she came out on The View taking a stance against gay marriage, the Ellen show refused to book Sherri. Adding a reason was never given, but it was easy to put it together." The source added that Ellen is a hypocrite. Quote, "She said she can be friends with people who have different views from hers, yet she won't give those people her platform and block them from appearing on her show." Halfway number 5, Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn was allegedly banned from being on the show for a short time, but they were able to work out their issues, and Vince is now on the show from time to time. The blacklisting took place after Vaughn made a joke about being gay in the trailer of the 2011 film The Dilemma. Ellen refused to have Vaughn on the show after Anderson Cooper came on and expressed his anger towards that joke. However, everyone was able to make amends later on. But some people think it's not true that he was ever actually banned, that he simply just had no movies to promote during that time. I'll let you guys be the judge. And at number 4, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin has beef with a lot of people, and unsurprisingly, Ellen is one of them. Sources say that Ellen didn't allow Katie to come on the show because of their feud. According to Griffin, it all started when Ellen opened her show with a monologue about how, quote, mean Griffin could be. Apparently Griffin heard it from her dressing room and said, quote, I was in the dressing room like, you're another woman comic, come on. Apparently they also butted heads over Joan Rivers. Kathy was a huge fan while Ellen was not. Griffin exposed later how she was banned from the show, but Ellen replied in W Magazine saying, quote, she did a whole thing that I banned her from the show. I didn't ban her from the show because first you have to be on the show to be banned. Ouch.
Number 3, return to action movies canceled. Being known for his casting in action movies, Brendan was supposed to make a triumphant return to them in 2022 with the release of DC's Batgirl. He was set to be playing a villainous Firefly. The character was described as a veteran who lost his beliefs and took a villainy approach to solve his problems. Unfortunately for Brendan, who was struggling financially at the time of Batgirl was cancelled for tax purposes, and the movie has been put away indefinitely. The decision was disappointing for anybody involved. However, Brendan was concerned that the cancellation of the film would hurt his comeback efforts. Hopefully for Brendan this won't be the case, and he's able to book something soon and show Hollywood what they truly been missing. Number 2, relates to the horse from Animal Farm. Brendan finds the horse from Animal Farm really relatable to who he is. The horse Boxer is selfless and good-natured character who adopts the mindset that whenever something goes wrong, he must simply work harder. Brendan noted that he felt that Boxer's job was to work, and that he also shared the same type of mentality when it came to his own work. The Animal Farm horse even lent to Brendan to rescue a horse from a History Channel set in Mexico. Brendan said, the horse looked at him and said he needed help and to get me out of here, man. So the star adopted the horse, named him, and brought him back to his farm in Bedford, New York. Brendan then highlighted that when the character had severe injuries, he was able to connect because they were both pushing themselves too hard and taking self-destructive measures to get the job done. With the unspoken subtext of Boxer's story, it's easy to see why the star felt such a huge connection to the story and the horse, because both live a really trusting life, which caused both to be taken advantage of, and still at the end of the day, they continue to go on tirelessly. Number 1, his return has had some mixed reactions. With all of Brendan Fraser's experience, it makes sense why out of all the careers he could have had, he chose acting, especially when it came to him starring in the film The Whale. His character is a man that was extremely affected by weight gain, which is something Brendan has had first-hand experience with. However, according to Marie Claire, the movie had already had mixed reactions over Fraser's use of a fat suit in the role. With prosthetics like this one usually relating to fat suits being used in films in the past, it's led to fat phobias, which can be really damaging to people watching the film. Brendan did come out to say that unlike the harmful bodysuits used in comedy movies, The Whale was not just a one-note joke. Having mistreated his own body himself for his work in the past, and being a target of fat phobia himself, he wanted the audience to be sympathetic about the way people look. Bigger-bodied people in cinema have been portrayed in mean-spirited ways for far too long, and it's time for that to change. Regardless of how much work the actor put into his portrayal of himself and how he struggled with his own weight, sadly, the actor's comeback didn't come without sticking a few points.